Luna and Hazel, the twin flowers of Shadowbrook Mountain, were captured by the demon lord in the netherworld. Our mentor, the god of war Ethan, was in seclusion, and only our two brothers came to rescue us, but the demon lord refused to let us go. For the sake of the god of war, you can only take one of these young girls. With despair in my eyes, they chose Hazel. I'm sorry, Luna, Hazel's cultivation is lower, and she can't withstand the torment of the demonic energy. When our mentor emerges from seclusion, we will ask him to save you. The demon lord's sword pierced my heart, but triggered the restriction my king had placed on me. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in the Fox Denver King. I agreed to the demon king's marriage proposal. Seeing me get up, my king looked at me with some concern. Luna, rest for a few more days? He used to oppose my stubbornness in joining Shadowbrook Mountain the most. Now that I have agreed to return for a political marriage, he doesn't seem happy at all. My king knew that my heart was hurt. Even a sword piercing my heart could not compare to the pain my brothers had inflicted on me. I lowered my eyes calmly, hiding the mist in my eyes. The 700 years of mentor-student bond with Shadowbrook Mountain, now that I'm returning to Azure Hills, I should bid farewell to my mentor properly. My father sighed and stopped trying to persuade me. Demon King Asher has been deeply in love with you, and has never married, leaving the position of queen vacant for 2,000 years. Now that you have agreed to the marriage, he must be very happy. I clenched my cold fingertips, my voice deep. The day I return from Shadowbrook Mountain, we will get married. After my father left, I picked up the celestial sword on the jade platform beside me. This was a divine sword that Ethan had fought for 3 days in the sword graveyard to obtain, as a gift for my 300th year of entry into the sect. I wore it on my waist every day, never letting it leave my side. Brother Henry once laughed at me. Sister Luna values the celestial sword more than her own life. I nodded in agreement. The sword is my life. The sword dies, I die. But now that I am leaving the sect, the sword should also be returned to my mentor. Because I know that, besides the two brothers, I am not in Ethan's eyes either. Returning to Shadowbrook Mountain, I searched for a long time before finding them on Back Hill. The two brothers were playing with Hazel, and Ethan was smiling and playing the zither, dressed in white, unparalleled in his handsomeness. They were slightly stunned when they saw me. Hazel ran over barefoot, her face innocent. Sister Luna, you're back. Come quickly. She pulled me towards the middle of the grass. The flowers grown by our mentor using spiritual power are so beautiful. Hazel's bell-like laughter echoed through the valley. The lilacs all over the mountain were indeed beautiful. But they forgot that purple lilacs were the flowers I feared the most, because they held my most painful memories. I ran stiffly, dragged by Hazel, my hands and feet trembling a little. I reflexively wanted to pull my hand away from Hazel, but she suddenly fell to the ground. Luna too! What are you doing? Brother Caleb landed on the ground with his toes, flying straight over, pushing me away and picking up Hazel horizontally. You're bullying Hazel as soon as you arrive. She just wanted to take you to see the flowers. What did she do wrong? Brother Henry on the other side anxiously held Hazel's leg, checking her leg injury. Hazel tugged on Brother Caleb's sleeve and whispered, Brother, don't blame Sister Luna, I was just careless. Then she looked up at me. Sister Luna didn't do it on purpose, right? The grass on Back Hill has always been taken care of by me personally. It was trimmed neatly and softly. How could Hazel, who possesses spiritual power, fall so easily? But I couldn't stop trembling all over, and didn't have the strength to explain. The purple lilacs were gradually stained with blood in my eyes, turning into a dazzling red. It seemed that I had returned to that bloody night. Apologize to Hazel. A clear and cold voice sounded from above my head. I looked up, looking incredulously at my mentor, Ethan, dressed in white. Even my mentor didn't believe me. Seeing that I didn't speak, Brother Caleb lost his patience. Are you blaming us for not choosing you back then? Sister, the demonic energy in the netherworld is too strong. Hazel's spiritual power is low. Staying inside for too long will damage her foundation. I clenched my fists, my voice trembling a little. My cultivation is not high either. But didn't you come back safely? Brother Henry healed Hazel with heartache, not even bothering to give me a glance. Since nothing happened, don't make a fuss. Heh, nothing happened. If my king hadn't placed a protective restriction on me, I would have been devoured by the demon lord long ago, not even leaving a corpse behind. I stubbornly raised my head, looking at my mentor, whom I used to admire and respect. As if nailing my own retreat, I asked that sentence, then mentor, why didn't you come to save me? Immortal Ethan, with his clear breeze and bright moon, flashed a hint of guilt in his eyes, but it disappeared quickly. Hazel was eroded by demonic energy, and I must expel the demonic energy for her. My body swayed, and the heart that had been repaired by my king ached again. Blood-red lilacs filled my eyes. It turned out that in the hearts of these three people, I was far inferior to Hazel. Swallowing the sweetness in my throat, I was about to return the sword and say goodbye, when Hazel suddenly whimpered. Mentor, brother, I'm in so much pain. Sister is just back. Don't blame her. I saw Hazel frowning, her pale face full of pain. The three of them changed their expressions and flew towards the main hall with Hazel in their arms. Sister is feeling uncomfo. Rootable again, is the demonic energy not cleaned up? Don't worry, I will help her purify the spiritual power in her blood again. As the voices faded away, my eyes gradually blurred with blood. Under the double stimulation of unhealed injuries and blood-red lilacs, I fell heavily to the ground, unconscious. I am Luna too, the youngest daughter of the king of the nine-tailed fox clan. In my childhood, during the war between the immortals and demons, countless people were killed and injured in the realms, and living beings were devastated. My mother also died in battle. I watched her die in front of me, her blood staining a large patch of lilacs under her body. Those were the flowers that bloomed at the intersection of the immortal and demon worlds. I fell into a boundless mountain of corpses. It was the passing god of war Ethan who saved me and took me back to Shadowbrook Mountain. After waking up, I developed hysteria. As soon as I saw lilacs, my eyes would be filled with blood, and I would tremble all over, as if I had fallen into the bloody sea stained red by my mother. Ethan took me as his disciple and brought me to the two brothers. From now on, she will be your sister, you must protect her well. From then on, I hid my identity and became a disciple of Shadowbrook Mountain. They did protect me very well, teaching me swordsmanship move by move. Even if I was mediocre, they were never impatient. When going out to train, they would block in front of me at the first sign of danger. I had only been injured once, my shoulder was cut by a demonic creature. That time they blamed themselves, one voluntarily confined himself for 10 years. One asked to enter the demon cave and spend 8 years killing tens of thousands of demons to avenge me. Sister, we swear, we will work harder to cultivate in the future, and we will never let you suffer any more harm. For 700 years, we traveled together to the heavens and the earth, all over the realms. I never suffered the slightest injury again. My mentor loved me even more, even if I was naughty, complained of hardship and fatigue, and refused to cultivate properly. He never blamed me. Instead, he went to the heavens and the earth, obtaining countless elixirs and medicines to accumulate spiritual power and improve my cultivation for me. I sent a message to my king. I was doing very well in Shadowbrook Mountain, and everyone treated me like family. I refused the Demon King's marriage proposal to Azure Hills. I wanted to stay in Shadowbrook Mountain for the rest of my life, with my mentor and brothers. Until the day Hazel was brought back to Shadowbrook Mountain. She's dying, beaten back to her original form and lying at the foot of the mountain. I really can't bear it. When she gets better, we'll send her away. Luna, don't worry, we will only ever have you as our sister. But after she got better, my mentor accepted her as his fourth disciple. I also changed from sister to Sister Luna. I also smiled and accepted Hazel. Sister will protect you, just like the brothers used to protect me. Sister, don't be afraid, Sister will make you cheesecake. But for some reason, even though I knocked down the demon's sword, she would still get hurt. The cheesecake I made for her with my own hands actually contained poison. On a snowy day, she took the initiative to practice swordsmanship in the sword pavilion until late at night, caught a cold, and in the mouths of the brothers, it became me bullying her by virtue of my status as her sister, forcing her to practice hard. We have protected you for so many years, but we never thought you would be so vicious, actually harming Sister. Luna too, you disappoint me too much. The two brothers had more and more opinions about me, and my mentor gradually stood on her side. But for me, Shadowbrook Mountain was my second home. My mentor and brothers were my family. I thought they understood me, and one day, all the misunderstandings would be solved. But that day, in the hands of the demon lord, they chose Hazel. After my mentor emerged from seclusion, he didn't ask me a single question. He used spiritual power to make flowers bloom all over the mountain, just to make Hazel smile. He didn't care how I could survive in the netherworld. When I woke up, I was still lying on the grass on Back Hill. Without the blessing of my mentor's spiritual power, Back Hill returned to a world of ice and snow. The beautiful lilacs also withered away. It was the winter night, and my body was covered with a thin layer of frost. I gritted my teeth and got up, dragging my frozen legs, staggering back to my chamber. In the distance, the main hall was brightly lit, with a warm fireplace burning. I could still see figures moving back and forth. It was my mentor and brothers accompanying Hazel. I pushed open the door to my chamber, which was dark. The temperature was as cold as outside. I had just laid down on the bed to rest when a burst of hurried footsteps came from the door. It was Brother Caleb. He pushed the door open violently, and the wind and snow poured in. I couldn't help but cough a few times. Brother Caleb frowned, a trace of worry flashed in his eyes as he saw me lying weakly on the bed. But then, as if remembering something, he reached out to me. "Luna, lend me the frost bloom." My heart tightened. Frost bloom? That was a gift that my mentor gave me on my birthday 100 years ago. There was only one plant like it in the heavens and on earth, which could drive away hundreds of poisons and purify all things. If a person on the verge of death took it, even if they stepped into the gates of hell, Frost Bloom could pull them back. At that time, my mentor came from afar on his sword, travel-worn, and took it out of his arms like a treasure. He smiled warmly. "Luckily, I finally made it in time for our Luna's birthday. This is the birthday gift your mentor is giving you this year. I hope Luna is immune to all evil and joys, happiness, and peace." That was the life-saving fairy grass that my mentor gave me. It only grows in extremely cold places. I nodded emphatically, happily hugging his arm. "Thank you, mentor. Mentor is the best to Luna." I carefully put it away, reluctant to eat it. Shadowbrook Mountain did not have suitable living conditions for Frost Bloom, so I fed it with my heart's blood every day to ensure its healthy growth. But all of that was in the past. I sniffed, a sour feeling spreading to my nose. "Brother, that was a birthday gift my mentor gave me." Hearing this, Brother Caleb was a little impatient. He looked around and began to rummage through the cabinets. "Sister is feeling unwell, and our mentor has purified her spiritual power several times, but she still feels pain. I'm afraid she was hurt to the root by the demonic energy, and if it goes on for too long, she will fall into the demonic path. Now, the most suitable herb for her is Frost Bloom." Unable to find the fairy grass, he threw down the mess he had made of the cabinets and walked up to me, staring at me. "Now is not the time to be petty. Sister likes you so much, and she was still saying good things about you today. Are you really willing to watch her fall into the demonic path?" My limbs, which had been frostbitten by the ice and snow, seemed even more numb. Even my heart was so cold that it made me tremble. Why was Hazel in pain because she was injured by demonic energy? I'm afraid she had been eyeing my Frost Bloom for a long time, just looking for an excuse to snatch it away. It's hard for these one or two people to believe her like fools. I was the one who was stabbed in the heart by the demon lord. I was the one who lay half the night in the ice and snow on Back Hill. But their eyes were only on Hazel. I grinned, smiling bitterly. "What if I don't give it? Luna too, how can you be so jealous? Sister is everyone's sister in Shadowbrook Mountain. She at least calls you sister. She's so kin D and lovely, but you're refusing to save her. How can you be so heartless?" Brother Henry's voice came from outside the door. He seemed to be unable to wait any longer and ran over to urge Brother Caleb. "Brother, no need to talk nonsense with this woman. She cherishes Frostbloom so much, she must have raised it in a place full of spiritual energy. Violet Grotto." The two of them brightened their eyes and spoke in unison. After saying that, they turned into two streams of light and flew towards Violet Grotto. My face changed drastically. forcing myself to follow, even with my sick body. By the time I got there, they had already dug Frostbloom out of the soil. My heart trembled, and I almost spat out blood. What are you doing? On the crystal-clear petals of Frostbloom, there were wisps of red lines spreading. Those were formed by me feeding it with my heart's blood day and night. They contained the pure bloodline power of the Azure Hills royal family. Without the nourishment of the spiritual soil, the flowers of Frostbloom withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Brother Caleb shouted, "It's not good, we have to feed it to sister quickly." At the same time, 2 more lights flew into the violet grotto. My mentor came, carrying Hazel. Hazel looked pained, her eyes full of forbearance. "Brother, don't snatch sister's fairy grass." Cough cough, that was given to sister by mentor. My mentor lovingly wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. "Hazel, as long as it can cure you, what does a small Frostbloom matter? Besides, that was found by me, it's useless to keep it with your sister." I suddenly raised my head, my eyes red, looking at my mentor, whom I used to respect the most, Immortal Ethan. So, Immortal Ethan, with his clear breeze and bright moon, could also reveal such painful and sad expressions. He was not always cold and arrogant to everyone, he would also have such a gentle, flustered appearance. It's just that all his love and affection was given to Hazel, and I didn't deserve it. I still insisted on the last trace of stubbornness. Does mentor really want to give the Frostbloom that I have nurtured for 100 years to sister to eat? My mentor glanced at me faintly, that look containing disappointment, helplessness, and boredom. "After Hazel gets better, I will find a better fairy grass for you to compensate you. Luna too, don't be naughty anymore." A cold smile tugged at the corner of my lips, and my last hope finally vanished. The tightly clenched hand completely loosened, the palm that I had pinched open flowed with blood, dripping into the empty violet grotto along my fingertips. Drip, drip. Immortal Ethan waved his hand, and Frostbloom flew over and instantly merged into Hazel's body. Hazel's body instantly emitted a faint fluorescent light. "I'll take Hazel back first to absorb the medicinal effects of the fairy grass. You 3, go back and rest early too." He flicked his sleeves and flew away with Hazel in his arms. Brother Caleb stopped. "Sister, it's all our fault for spoiling you too much on weekdays, making you have no compassion at all." Looking at my bleeding palms and trembling limbs, he shook his head. "Stop pretending, your methods of competing for favor with sister are really low." Brother Henry looked back with a complicated expression, glanced at me, hesitated to speak, but in the end, he chose to leave. Only a sigh came from afar. I bit my lip, using the pain of my flesh to suppress the pain in my heart. It was time to leave. The blood-red lilacs that they forgot. The loneliness of being left alone in the world of ice and snow. The palms that were pinched open in despair. It seemed that I no longer had any meaning to stay. Returning to my chamber, I wrote a letter on parchment. "Your unfilial disciple, for many years, has been lazy in cultivation and incorrigibly naughty. Thank you for your kindness in not abandoning me and for teaching me with care. But I feel guilty in my heart and don't want to cause any more trouble for you. Today I am leaving the sect and returning the celestial sword." I took off the celestial sword from my waist and pressed it on the letter. I went out and bowed 3 times and kowtowed 9 times to my mentor's main hall. The snow was falling heavily. I could still hear Hazel's delicate laughter in the hall. The many years of mentorship I had already repaid with my life that day in the netherworld. The sister of Shadowbrook Mountain was dead. Now, the one who was alive was just Luna too, who was going to marry the Demon King. I turned around decisively, recited the incantation, and disappeared from Shadowbrook Mountain. My heart was desolate, and I felt only sadness and ridicule. My mentor was no longer the mentor who treasured me like a treasure. My brothers were no longer the brothers who protected me with their lives. Since you have chosen Hazel, then the promise you made when you were young to be together forever no longer counts. Hazel, don't you like to eat? The Frostbloom nurtured with the blood of the Princess of Azure Hills is not so easy to eat. A mere rabbit that has taken human form cannot withstand such a fierce bloodline power. Sooner or later, you will come to beg me at Shadowbrook Mountain. On the way back to Azure Hills, I fell heavily and passed out. In a daze, a stream of warm medicine flowed from my lips into my stomach, warming my internal organs. I slowly opened my eyes. A handsome man with a graceful bearing was looking at me with gentle eyes. "You're awake. This is..." I struggled to get up, wanting to take a look around. "Did you save me?" The man smiled and called a maid over. "Serve the lady to bathe and change clothes, and then serve her a meal." He got up to leave, and I called out to him, "May I ask the name of my benefactor? I will repay you handsomely when I return home." The man chuckled, his laughter like sweet dew, seeping into my heart. "Just call me Asher." After recuperating for a few days, I felt refreshed and went out to get some air. The whole city outside was decorated with lanterns and colorful streamers, and red silk hung all over the shops and every street. Everyone's faces were filled with joy and happiness. I grabbed a granny. "Is there any happy event in the city?" The granny looked me up and down and said with a kind smile, "You must be from out of town, aren't you? Our king is getting married. The demon realm will finally have a queen. This is a great happy event for the entire demon race." I was stunned, so I had fallen into the demon realm. As I walked along the road, the children ran and played, the women shopped, and the men were tall and strong but very kind. Everyone was smiling and happy. The folk customs were simple. It had more of a human touch than the immortal realm, and more peace and happiness than the human world. The demons have simple minds, without the deep scheming of the immortals and humans, and it was different from what I had imagined. In the distance, there was a commotion, and a man rode a tall horse, galloping over. Everyone cheered, "It's our king!" The man's horse stopped beside me. I looked up. It was a familiar smiling face. "Asher? You are the demon king?" He reached out to me. "Luna, would you like to be my queen?" Asher was full of youthful spirit, his hair tied high, dressed in black, riding a black horse, smiling shyly and gently. My dead heart trembled suddenly. I got on his horse. Yes. On the day of the wedding, Asher invited guests from the realms. Asher had no parents, and only my king, the king of the nine-tailed fox clan, sat on the high platform. He looked at me kindly, with tears in his eyes. I knew he was happy, but also reluctant. I was wearing a veil, holding Asher's hand, and bowed to my father. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from outside the hall. "Congratulations to the demon king on marrying his beloved wife." Seeing the person who came, my king's face instantly turned ugly. My heart trembled, and I suddenly clenched Asher's hand. It was him. Asher reassured me, holding my hand in return, turning to look at the person, and smiling. "So it's immortal Ethan. These three, are they the immortal's beloved disciples?" Through the red gauze covering my head, I saw Hazel skip to Asher's front. She asked curiously, "Are you the demon king? This queen sister is so beautiful." She was still so innocent. Immortal Ethan stopped her sternly. "Hazel, don't be rude." Seemingly scolding, his eyes were full of doting. Hazel stuck out her tongue and retreated behind him. He cupped his hands to apologize to Asher. "My disciple is naughty. Please forgive me, Demon King." He was protecting Hazel. Ethan first congratulated Asher on his wedding, and then saluted my father. "Ethan has met the Fox King." My father snorted coldly and ignored him. He paused, seemingly a little puzzled. He had never had any feud with my father. Why was my father so cold and disgusted towards him? "It doesn't matter." Asher waved his hand. "Then please watch the ceremony from the side, Immortal, and after the ceremony is completed, you must drink my wedding wine well." "That's natural." Seeing my nervousness, Asher gently whispered to comfort me, "Luna, don't be afraid." That heart that was beating so violently calmed down just like that. After the ceremony, the demons present all clamored to see the bride. "Queen, lift the veil." The children clapped their hands and cheered, and the women and men all looked at me expectantly. Lifting the veil after the wedding ceremony and distributing candy to everyone is a tradition of demon weddings. Moreover, I am the queen, and today I have to spread the joy to the entire demon race. I took a deep breath. In the tens of thousands of expectant eyes, Asher slowly lifted the red veil from my head. After seeing my face clearly, the crowd applauded thunderously. "Our queen is so beautiful." But the faces of the people from Shadowbrook Mountain instantly turned gloomy. Sister? Sister? Luna? Ethan looked at me in disbelief. Crossing the thousands of people, our eyes met. There was reluctance, shock, and doubt in his eyes. But Hazel was the first to react. No wonder Sister is no longer the disciple of Shadowbrook Mountain. It turns out she has come to the demon realm to be the queen. She ran over and hugged me, her voice joyful, but her eyes were venomous. Sister, Hazel misses you so much. She probably didn't expect that I would be able to marry Asher, who was known as the youngest and most promising emperor in the realms, the Demon King. Brother Henry's voice trembled a little. Luna, are you really going to marry him? I pushed Hazel away and raised a smiling face. What is Brother Caleb saying? Now that the ceremony is completed, I am already the queen. He eagerly wanted to pull me, sister. I took a step back. Please respect yourself, brother. Caleb looked bitter. You don't even recognize me as your brother anymore? I shook my head gently. The sister of Shadowbrook Mountain died that day in the netherworld. Brother Caleb seemed extremely indignant. He clenched his fists. Sister, once a mentor, always a father, you shouldn't have defected from the sect. After hearing my words, Hazel, who had a smile on her face, suddenly filled with tears. So Sister is still blaming me. That's why she left Shadowbrook Mountain. Even if Sister has climbed the big tree of the Demon King, you have always stayed in Shadowbrook Mountain for 700 years. How can you be an ungrateful person? When she said this, she secretly sized up Asher, seemingly wanting to see a look of anger on his face. I knew she was trying to sow discord between me and Asher. The surrounding area was already buzzing with discussions. I squeezed Asher's hand, telling him not to worry, I could handle it. He looked at me deeply and said in a low voice, "Don't force yourself, come to me if you can't handle it." I smiled at him and nodded, okay. Today is my great day. I will drink with everyone, and not go home until we are drunk. He called everyone to the banquet. Cheers! The lively courtyard suddenly became quiet. Ethan walked over and looked at me indifferently, neither happy nor sad. Luna, are you really going to leave? A glint of mockery flashed in my eyes as I abruptly looked up. Ethan, God of War, Asher and I are already married. I paused. Isn't it a little late to ask now? My mentor was still as aloof and otherworldly as ever. Even now, he didn't show a trace of concern. He took a step closer. You've changed. I remember when you were little, you said you wanted to be with your master and brothers forever. A wave of memories washed over me. When I was a child, I was indeed very attached to him. He was the one who brought me out of the netherworld's mountain of corpses. Even after arriving at Shadowbrook Mountain, for a long time, I followed him wherever he went. Ethan was like a piece of driftwood I clung to in the vast sea. Though aloof, he was extremely gentle with me then, gradually soothing my panic and hysteria. The stirrings of a girl's heart slowly sprouted, branched out, and blossomed into vibrant flowers. Once, I did want to stay at Shadowbrook Mountain forever. My desire to be with my master was beyond a mentor-student bond, an unspeakable affection. My voice hoarse, I asked, have I changed, or have you? 700 years of trust, outweighed by Hazel's instigation. All these years, have you ever listened to my explanation? I staggered backward. Ethan, God of War, in the time I was gone, did any of you, look for me? Ethan frowned. Hazel, however, knelt down, clutching at the hem of my gown, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Luna. We thought you were just throwing a tantrum, that you'd be fine in a few days. If you have to blame someone, blame me, don't argue with master and brothers. How annoying! Not wanting her to touch me, I tugged at my skirt, but Hazel held on too tightly. The sound of tearing parchment filled my ears. My eyes instantly turned red. It was the wedding gown Asher had presented to me the day before our wedding. Luna, I made this myself. You don't know, I'm so happy that you're willing to marry me. I wondered how the Demon King, in his royal palace, with anticipation and happiness, had sewn the wedding gown, stitch by stitch, for the woman he loved. His hands, used to wielding weapons, were covered in needle pricks. Asher didn't know, Being able to marry him made me so happy too. But now, Asher's heart was ruined by Hazel. I drew my sword and held it to Hazel's neck. How dare you? Ethan angrily knocked the sword out of my hand. Enough! He shielded Hazel, his eyes red-rimmed. Just because I'm a little nicer to Hazel, you had to leave in a huff? She's your sister. Am I only allowed to be nice to you and no one else? You even climbed onto the Demon King's high horse. How have I taught you all these years? You're an orphan I picked up. Where could you go without Shadowbrook Mountain? Without us standing behind you, you'll be bullied by Asher sooner or later. I looked at the unfamiliar Ethan, god of war. Was this still the master I used to cling to every day? When I returned from the mountain of corpses as a child, shivering in his arms, I couldn't open my heart. My mother's death had plunged my world into darkness. If everyone was going to leave in the end, I'd rather not invest any emotion from the start, so the pain wouldn't be so great when I lost them. It was Master who whispered a promise: I will always be with Luna, I will never leave. All liars. Tears streamed down my face. King gripped the armrest tightly, his knuckles white, unable to bear it any longer. Just as he was about to slam his hand down, I imperceptibly shook my head at high. Transmitting my thoughts, daughter's own affairs, daughter wants to resolve them herself. I looked at Ethan and sneered, Asher is 100 times better than you. At least he doesn't doubt me, dislike me, or abandon me. As for what happens to me in the future, you don't need to worry about it. At least I won't die here. Ethan swung his sword and shattered the table, roaring, very well, Luna too, from now on, we are finished. The proud Ethan, god of war, could never lower his head for little me. Bitterness spread in my heart, solidifying into a single sentence, fine. There was struggle, helplessness, and pain in the eyes of my two brothers. In the end, they still followed Ethan away. They held Hazel, as if I had inflicted some terrible injury on her. Once they left, I finally relaxed, staggering and almost falling. It was King who caught me. My daughter, you've suffered. The king of the nine-tailed fox clan, who had conquered the 4 seas for tens of thousands of years, shed tears of heartache. If you hadn't stopped me, even if it meant leveling Shadowbrook Mountain, your father would never let you suffer in the slightest. Thinking of the frostbloom Hazel had consumed, I narrowed my eyes and patted King reassuringly, don't worry, they won't have an easy time either. Besides, daughter is now married into the netherworld, and will have Asher to protect me from now on. At that moment, Asher rushed over, and King nodded with relief. Asher is a good boy. Asher, filled with worry, pulled me around, checking me from head to toe, only relaxing after seeing that I had no injuries. Hazel's illness came on fiercely, deteriorating faster than I had imagined. This was the nine-tailed fox clan's royal bloodline, a natural suppressive force against lesser rabbit demons. Ethan, god of war, brought Hazel and his 2 disciples to the netherworld again. This time, Hazel was completely unable to stand, her cheeks pale and blue. Unable to even circulate the demonic energy within her body properly. Luna too, what did you do to Hazel? You, as the god of war, should know Hazel's situation better than I do, shouldn't you? I said softly. Seeing my master and 2 brothers, who had been with me since childhood, my hatred and love had all disappeared. Asher's love was generous and took very good care of me. I should look forward. My grievances with my master and brothers were settled, we owed each other nothing. However, the debt between me and Hazel was not so easily cleared. Ethan's face was gloomy. Why does Hazel have the royal bloodline of the demon clan within her? The bloodline's suppressive force is too strong, her own blood can hardly circulate. The spiritual energy in her meridians is running rampant, and even I can't do anything about it. Luna Tuesday. Ethan took a deep breath. Since you've climbed a new high branch, it's time for us to part ways amicably with Shadowbrook Mountain. Why are you still unwilling to let Hazel go? Could it be that last time, during your wedding, Asher did something to her? It was not strange that Ethan suspected Asher. The demon royal bloodline could indeed have this effect, but it was not the only bloodline that could have a suppressive effect. I scoffed coldly, Hazel, a mere rabbit demon, is not worthy of my husband's attention. With Ethan, god of war's divine power, it's not hard to see that within Hazel's body is the blood of the nine-tailed fox king, right? She ate something she wasn't worthy of eating, she can't blame others. I took a step forward, directly confronting his eyes. Hazel deserved it. Lying in his arms, Hazel trembled upon hearing these words, opening her misty eyes, tearful. Master, I didn't eat anything I shouldn't have. I know. Ethan coaxed her. I'll heal you. I clapped my hands, applauding. What a great show. Ethan, god of war, and his beloved disciple, truly have a deep mentor-student bond. I rolled my eyes and smiled. Those who don't know would think you were a talented man and beautiful woman, a perfect match. You. Ethan's patience was running out. Don't think that just because you've become the demon queen, you can do whatever you want. Once a master, always a father. I still have the right to discipline you. Ha ha ha, is that so? I laughed. In this netherworld, I'm afraid it's not your turn to be presumptuous. If you're not afraid of her dying. I glanced at Hazel. Feel free to try. Involving Hazel's life, the ferocity in Ethan's eyes instantly disappeared. I was extremely disappointed in my heart. After so long, he was still so biased, only believing Hazel's sweet words. Does the god of war know what my identity is? Henry couldn't stand it any longer and stepped forward. What identity? You're just a low-level fox demon. If it weren't for Shadowbrook Mountain's guidance, you probably wouldn't be able to climb into Asher's bed in your entire life. Slap, a crisp slap resounded, and a clear handprint appeared on Henry's face. How dare a mere Shadowbrook Mountain disciple speak to this queen in such a tone? I blew on my numb hand with some disdain. How annoying. Brother. Caleb hurriedly went up to support Henry, his face very ugly, but he also knew that this was not the time to fight with me. At least there was one person who could see the situation clearly. Ethan sighed. They say you are the daughter of the Fox King, the princess of Azure Hills. I don't believe it. Who knows what despicable means you used to climb onto the Demon Kings? Henry was still unforgiving. From an unknown little fox demon, you transformed into the princess of Azure Hills? What a joke. Before he could finish speaking, a fierce gust of wind struck him. Cough cough. Henry was instantly blown back a dozen feet, falling to the ground and vomiting several mouthfuls of blood. Who dares to bully my daughter? A majestic voice came. I looked up and exclaimed with joy, Father. I saw King striding through the air, landing lightly in front of Ethan. Ethan put down Hazel and cupped his fist in salute. Greetings, Fox King. King frowned. Ethan, why don't you discipline your disciples properly, repeatedly offending my daughter? Are you perhaps bullying Azure Hills because we have no one? Ethan looked at me in disbelief. Luna too is really your daughter? King snorted coldly. Can't I even recognize my own daughter? I heard that she suffered a lot at Shadowbrook Mountain. You've made things difficult for Luna many times because of this little female demon. That time, you even left Luna alone in the netherworld, almost losing her life. Ethan raised his head sharply, clenching his fists. That time, choosing to save Hazel first was also a last resort for me. What a last resort. King's suppressed anger finally erupted. People have those who are close and those who are distant. You chose your little disciple first, and I won't say anything. But what about you people later? Did you ever ask about my Luna once? The demon lord pierced her heart with a sword, and Luna almost didn't make it back. Caleb looked over with some concern. Sister, you really? I smiled coldly, staring back at him. If it hadn't been for my father placing a restriction on me, activating the final protection transfer, and sending me back to Azure Hills, I would have died in the netherworld that day. Ethan murmured in a low voice, no wonder I didn't sense the fluctuations of your soul, I thought you were fine. I bitterly tugged at the corners of my mouth. How could I be fine? That was the demon lord. Even the celestial emperor and the demon emperor couldn't do anything to him, let alone a little fox like me who was unskilled in the arts. He seemed somewhat ashamed and wanted Ed to come over and check my body. I shook my head, avoiding him. What were you doing then? You were coaxing Hazel to be happy, using spiritual energy to create a warm garden for Hazel, knowing that I was most afraid of lilacs. My heart inexplicably ached. Hazel was only invaded by demonic energy, and you went one after another to take care of her. I was pierced through the heart by the demon lord's sword. I pointed to my heart and smiled. Except for my father, no one cared. Fortunately, I now have Asher. I have found someone who truly loves me. But why are you still unwilling to let me go? Luna. Guilt and self-blame appeared on Ethan's face for the first time. But Hazel is innocent. Choosing to save her was also the choice of me and your two brothers. You can hit us or scold us, but please save Hazel first, okay? How laughable, really too laughable. She's innocent? I pointed to Hazel, who was leaning against the ground. If she were innocent, she wouldn't have secretly used a demon sword to cut her own arm while I was desperately killing the demon, falsely accusing me. If she were innocent, she wouldn't have poisoned the cheesecake I made for her, and then eaten it herself, framing me. If she were innocent, she wouldn't have run to the sword graveyard to practice her sword until late at night, deliberately letting you find out, and then crying that I forced her to cultivate bitterly. I felt extremely tired. In the past, I was a little fox demon, and you always felt that I was competing with Hazel for affection, using every possible means. But I am the princess of Azure Hills. I truly disdain such despicable methods. Each sentence of accusation made Hazel's face even paler. She spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood, shaking her head desperately, trying to continue pretending to be pitiful and deceive everyone. Master, brothers, I didn't. I looked at the 3 of them. Even now, were the why still going to pretend to be blind and deaf, not seeing and not hearing, only blindly believing Hazel's sweet words? Ethan was silent for a while, looking into Hazel's eyes. Is what Luna said true? Hazel was unable to defend herself. Moreover, in the current situation, any defense was very pale. No one would believe that a noble princess of Azure Hills would compete for affection with a little rabbit demon. I smiled self-deprecatingly and continued, I was not fully recovered from my illness, and I returned to Shadowbrook Mountain to bid farewell to the god of war, but I didn't expect that the lilacs all over the mountain would trigger my hysteria. When I woke up, it was already late at night, and dew had already frozen on my body. Even in this state, I was still reluctant to eat the frost bloom. That was a fairy grass that I had nourished for hundreds of years with my heart's blood. If it were the former me, I would have gone mad if I were to recount these things in front of Ethan and the others. Now I could calmly talk about it as if it were someone else's business, little by little, with ease. I killed Hazel with my own hands, and it wasn't enjoyable at all. The knife that the closest person stabs is the most painful. I deeply understood this. Ethan's eyes seemed a little red. Would his eyes turn red for me too? But unfortunately, I didn't care anymore. Luna. He choked up. The frost bloom was actually nourished by your heart's blood? Otherwise, what makes you think? I looked up at him, and it was rare for the clear and bright god of war to be in such a sorry state. Why could such a flower, which would wither quickly after being picked, survive so well until today? He seemed to have thought of the frost bloom snatched from my hand, the faint red lines on the snow-white petals. He just opened his mouth wordlessly, wanting to apologize to me, but he felt that all words were too light, and could not make up for my Ein at all. I smiled. There's no need to apologize, save it. With this time, it's better to consider how to deal with Hazel. Harming the princess of Azure Hills was considered a very serious crime in the realms. At this time, Ethan was probably no longer able to protect Hazel. Henry questioned Hazel in disbelief, seemingly not expecting that his beloved little sister would have such deep schemes. What did we, master, second brother, do to wrong you? Back then, seeing you were pitiful, we brought you to Shadowbrook Mountain, and master even took you as a disciple, giving you a safe haven. Why did you want to harm us, harm Luna like this? Hazel just shook her head, unable to even speak. I knew it was the 9-tailed fox bloodline in her body that was angry, roaring. It felt my pain and was wantonly ravaging Hazel's body, probably making Hazel wish she were dead. Ethan took a deep breath and made a false stroke in the air with his right hand, then instantly clenched it. In an instant, Hazel's heart-wrenching screams rang out. Ethan bowed his head with his hands clasped in front of him. Hazel's immortal roots have been crushed by me. She will never be able to cultivate again in this life, nor will she be able to ascend to immortality. After today, I will throw Hazel into the demon cave, and Hazel will repay Luna 1,000-fold for the sins she suffered back then. He said these words to apologize to me, and also to show respect for King's face, to punish her severely. I knew that King had come this time to support me. This is Hazel's punishment. I said softly, then, what about Shadowbrook Mountain? You deceived me, humiliated me, what should be your punishment? Ethan's eyes were scarlet red, a sign of falling into demonic ways. I was not discerning, and mistakenly injured the princess. I will return to the celestial court and receive the punishment of thunder and lightning. Please be Neris, princess, and spare my 2 disciples, they can't withstand the punishment. I looked at my 2 brothers, who had once doted on me extremely, and had also hurt me deeply. I waved my hand impatiently. Enough! Shadowbrook Mountain has the grace of nurturing me, and the grudges between us have long been cancelled out. There is no need for the god of war to be punished either. Perhaps it was because he felt too guilty towards me. After returning, Ethan still went to the celestial court to receive the lightning punishment. After dozens of thunderbolts, Ethan's immortal roots were almost completely damaged. The rapid loss of spiritual power made him unable to suppress the demonic energy in his body. Ethan, god of war, who was admired by all immortals, eventually fell into the lowest level of demon. Ethan and the demon lord had a deep hatred, and falling into the hands of the demon lord was naturally not a good thing. It was said that he and Hazel suffered in the demon cave every day, being devoured by 10,000 demons, unable to reincarnate for all eternity. As for Henry and Caleb, they guarded the lonely Shadowbrook Mountain for 10,000 years. From then on, Shadowbrook Mountain never accepted any more disciples. However, these things had long been irrelevant to me. Asher and I were together, happy and content. He loved me, protected me, and never doubted me. My spiritual power increased a lot, and I also had the ability to protect myself. Over the past 10,000 years, I also gave birth to 2 lovely little ones. From then on, the green hills were hidden, the green waters surged, and we were free and unfettered.